Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for standing by. Welcome to the Kura Sushi USA Inc. Fiscal Second Quarter 2026 Earnings Conference Call. At this time, all participants have been placed in a listen-only mode. The lines will be open for your questions following the presentation. Please note that this call is being recorded. On the call today, we have Hajime "Jimmy" Uba, President and Chief Executive Officer, Jeff Uttz, Chief Financial Officer, and Benjamin Porten, Senior Vice President, Investor Relations and System Development. And now, I would like to turn the call over to Mr. Porten. Please go ahead.
Thank you, operator. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining. By now, everyone should have access to our fiscal second quarter 2026 earnings release. It can be found at www.kurasushi.com in the Investor Relations section. A copy of the earnings release has also been included in the 8-K we submitted to the SEC. Before we begin our formal remarks, I need to remind everyone that part of our discussion today will include forward-looking statements as defined under the Private Securities Litigation Reform Act of 1995. These forward-looking statements are not guarantees of future performance, and therefore you should not put undue reliance on them. These statements are also subject to numerous risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results to differ materially from what we expect. We refer all of you to our SEC filings for a more detailed discussion of the risks that could impact our future operating results and financial condition. Also during today's call, we will discuss certain non-GAAP financial measures which we believe can be useful in evaluating our performance. The presentation of this additional information should not be considered in isolation, nor as a substitute for results prepared in accordance with GAAP, and the reconciliations to comparable GAAP measures are available in our earnings release. With that out of the way, I would like to turn the call over to Jimmy.
Thanks, Ben, and thank you to everyone who's joining us on our call today. Entering this fiscal year, we knew that the second fiscal quarter will be critical regarding our ability to accomplish our stated goals, expectations, and full-year guidance. As some of you may have seen in this afternoon's release, our fiscal second quarter was quite strong. We have a lot of good news to share today, including better than expected comparable sales and record-breaking labor leverage. So let's jump right in. Total sales for the fiscal second quarter were $80 million, representing comparable sales growth of 8.6%, with 4.3% of positive traffic and 4.3% of price and mix. To provide an update on our goal of flat to slightly positive full-year comparable sales, our year-to-date comparable sales growth as of the end of the first half of fiscal 2026 is now 3%. While Q2 is the most favorable quarter in the fiscal year from a comparative perspective, considering our performance to date, we now expect modestly positive full-year comps. Cost of goods as a percentage of sales was 30.4% as compared to the prior year quarter's 28.7%. The tariff situation remains largely unchanged for us, and the minor relief due to the changes in tariff types have been offset by commodity inflation. We continue to expect full-year COGS to be approximately 30%. Labor as a percentage of sales improved by a remarkable 410 basis points from last year's 34.8% to 30.7%. Driven by operational initiatives and better sales leverage. Opportunity from labor initiatives scale alongside seasonal leverage, and it's unusual to see this level of impact in the first half of the fiscal year. Given our progress to date, our initial goal of improving labor as a percentage of sales by 100 basis points has proven to be conservative. Moving on to unit development. In the second quarter, we opened one new restaurant in Pflugerville, Texas. Subsequent to quarter end, we opened 4 more restaurants, Orange and Union City, California, Goodyear, Arizona, and Wellington, Florida. The openings from fiscal 26 are shaping up to be just as strong as fiscal 2025, which was the strongest vintage in recent memory. We currently have 8 units under construction. As some of these have very recently broken ground, our expectation for new openings in fiscal 26 remains at 16 units. On marketing, it's clear that our strategy of re-emphasizing our IP collaborations is working. Our Kirby collaboration was just as successful as we had hoped, and Nintendo is an excellent partner. Sanrio's evergreen popularity was one of the reasons for our strong performance in February. Our current IP collaboration is with Jujutsu Kaisen, coinciding with the release of their third season. Our next collaboration is with Tamagotchi as part of its 30th anniversary celebration, followed by Honkai Star Rail. We are making meaningful strides on the introduction of status tiering in our rewards program. This will be the most meaningful evolution in the rewards program since its introduction, and we are hard at work to create something that will delight both new guests and long-time players. Turning to the reservation system, I'm pleased to report that rewards members using the reservation system have much higher visitation rates than rewards members who haven't yet. Our two running top complaints have been our wait times and the accuracy of our wait time estimates, and we feel the reservation system has succeeded in addressing these biggest pain points for our guests. We believe that there is further opportunity by raising awareness of the ability to place reservations and sidestep these waits completely. To this end, after opening up reservation to non-reward members, we were able to grow the number of reservations placed by over 30%. On these robots, we continue to expect to retrofit the majority of the 50 restaurants that have the space to accommodate them by the end of the fiscal year. It bears mentioning that our expectation to improve labor by 100 basis points for fiscal 26 does not contemplate the impact of the dish robots. We expect the robot to deliver an incremental 50 basis point benefit in fiscal 27 over wherever we land at the end of this fiscal year. It's my pleasure to be able to report such a strong quarter, and I would like to thank our team members at our restaurants and support center for making this possible. Before I turn the call over to Jeff, I want to take a moment to address our announcement today and recognize and thank him personally. Jeff has been an invaluable partner to me and to Kura Sushi over the past 4 years. His strategic insight and financial leadership have been instrumental in our growth journey as a public company. While we will miss his expertise and partnership, we are grateful for everything he has contributed to our success. Jeff, on behalf of everyone at Kura, we would like to wish you the best of luck and success in your future endeavors.
Thank you, Jimmy, for those kind words. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve as CFO of Kura Sushi over the past 4 years. I'm incredibly proud of what we've accomplished together as a team, and I'd like to thank Jimmy, the board, and every member of the Kura family for their partnership and their trust. Now let me walk you through our fiscal second quarter financial results. For the second quarter, total sales were $80 million as compared to $64.9 million in the prior year period. Comparable restaurant sales growth compared to the prior year period was 8.6%. With 4.3% from traffic and 4.3% from price and mix. Comparable sales growth in our West Coast market was 7.2% and 9.7% in our Southwest market. Effective pricing for the quarter was 4.5%. As a reminder, beginning in the first quarter of fiscal 2027, we will no longer provide regional breakdowns for comparable sales, as regional comps are largely determined by the timing of infills, and we do not believe they are indicative of overall company trends. Turning now to costs. Food and beverage costs as a percentage of sales were 30.4% compared to 28.7% in the prior year quarter due to tariffs on imported ingredients. Labor and related costs as a percentage of sales were 30.7% as compared to 34.8% in the prior year quarter due to operational efficiencies, pricing, and better sales leverage, partially offset by low single-digit wage inflation. Occupancy and related expenses as a percentage of sales were 8.1% compared to the prior year quarter's 7.9%. Depreciation and amortization expense as a percentage of sales were 5.2% as compared to the prior year quarter's 5.1%. Other costs as a percentage of sales were 14.5% as compared to the prior year quarter's 13.5% due to higher promotional and utility costs. General and administrative expenses as a percentage of sales were 13.7% as compared to 16.9% in the prior year quarter. Fiscal second quarter 2026 includes $1.2 million of litigation expenses as compared to $2.1 million of litigation expenses in the prior year. Operating loss was $2.2 million compared to an operating loss of $4.6 million in the prior year quarter. Income tax expense was $51,000 as compared to $38,000 in the prior year quarter. And net loss was $1.7 million or negative 14 cents per share compared to a net loss of $3.8 million or negative 31 cents per share in the prior year quarter. Adjusted net loss, which excludes the litigation expense, was $502,000 or negative 4 cents a share as compared to adjusted net loss of $1.7 million or negative 14 cents per share in the prior year quarter. Restaurant level operating profit as a percentage of sales was 18.2% compared to 17.3% in the prior year quarter. Adjusted EBITDA was $5.5 million as compared to $2.7 million in the prior year quarter. And at the end of the fiscal second quarter, we had $69.7 million in cash equivalents and investments, and no debt. And lastly, I'd like to update and reiterate the following guidance for fiscal year 2026. We now expect total sales to be between $333 and $335 million. We expect to open 16 new units, maintaining an annual unit growth rate of about 20%, with average net capital expenditures per unit continuing to approximately $2.5 million. And we now expect G&A expenses as a percentage of sales to be approximately 12%, excluding litigation expense. And we now expect full-year restaurant-level operating profit margins to be between 18 and 18.5%. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Jimmy.
Thanks, Jeff. This concludes our prepared remarks. We are now happy to answer any questions you have. Operator, please open the line for questions. As a reminder, during the Q&A session, I may answer in Japanese before my response is translated into English.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad, and a confirmation tone will indicate your line is in the question queue. You may press star 2 if you would like to remove your question from the queue. For participants using speaker equipment, it may be necessary to pick up your handset before pressing the star keys. And the first question comes from the line of Andrew Charles with TD Cowen. Please proceed.
Great. Thank you very much. I was a bit surprised, following the big 2Q same-store sales beat, that revenue guidance was inched up. Looking at consensus forecast, it looks like you're blessing, the back half at the midpoint. So, does that reflect conservatism in the back half of the year, or perhaps you can comment on what you're seeing with the new store productivity as well?
Thank you, Andrew, for your first question. But please allow me to speak in Japanese. Ben is going to translate your question. 我々クォーターとか通期のね、ガイダンスっていうのを与えるんですけど、我々今回のモデストのポジティブコンプセールスっていうのは、今現在のイヤートゥーレイトのパフォーマンス、プラス、今現在ね、どのレストランもそうだと思うんですけど、いろんなアンサートリーがありますから、そういったものを踏まえたね、上下の振れ幅を踏まえた、そういったことを全て踏まえたような数字いただってるんで、必ずしもクォータートゥーレイトとかの状況を表すものではないということをご留意くださいと。これだけなんです。
はい。Hey, Charles, or Andrew Charles. My grandfather's name is Charles. Hey, Andrew, this is Ben. In terms of the guidance that we provided, it incorporates the better than expected performance of Q2, but just given there's a war going on and we don't know how it's going to play out, we felt it was prudent in terms of our guidance just to add the upside from Q2, but not to extrapolate further from that. It doesn't reflect conservatism or pessimism. It's just prudence.
Okay, fair enough. And then curious, what drove the improvement in mix to roughly flat? What are you seeing there in terms of attachments or beverages, et cetera, that helped improve that performance?
基本的にオペラタのミックスのコントリビューターは、寿司皿の、人型の消費量です。これが、6以下だ、6前後だったのが、これを6を超えていると。これが、やっぱり IT コラボレーションの効果によって出たものだというふうには理解しています。
The biggest factor would be our guests are eating more plates per person. Our interpretation is that this is a reflection of the success of the IPs. When we have compelling IPs, people are that much more incentivized to go for that 15th plate or to hit the spending threshold for our giveaways.
Awesome. Very good. And Jeff, all the best in your new role.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.
The next question comes from the line of Todd Brooks with Benchmark StoneX. Please proceed.
Hey, congrats on a really great quarter, and Jeff, best of luck in your next stop here. So, 2 questions, if I may. One, you talked about the margin leverage in this business and kind of the ability to claw your way back towards a 20% restaurant level operating margin without any sort of tariff relief. I think at a recent conference, Jimmy, you talked about some successful negotiations with some suppliers. We saw outsized labor leverage here. I guess, where are we in that journey, and when would you kind of think Kura has the ability to get back to that 20% level?
まずコンプスのネゴシエーションに関してはうまくできたんですけど、残念ながらですね、実はサービスと関係ないところでのシーフードのインフレーションっていうのが結構予想以上に来てて、この私のネゴシエーションの効果は残念ながらオフセットされる予定なんで、今回プリペイドリマックスと言いましたけど、コックスに関してはおそらく 30% 前後で落ち着くというようになっているんで、そこはちょっとマージンのエクスパンションには貢献しないと思ってます。それ以外はやっぱり今回ね、400ベースポイント以上のレーバーコストをやりましたんで、やっぱそれが引き続き27も続いていくこと、それプラスディッシュロボット、によってさらにね、50ベースポイントのことができること。あとプラス、もちろんね、Q2 のコンプは良かったんですけど、古いアイディとモデスのコンプですけども、来年以降は特にニューマーケットにね、オープンできることでカニバリのインパクトを半減できると思いますね。そういったコンプのセールスのレバレッジですとか、あとレバーのこと。そちらが主に18% だか 20% できるレバーになる、ドライバーになると思ってます。ご説明ください。
Hi. Hey, Todd, this is Ben. So we're very pleased with how the negotiations between Jimmy and our suppliers went. Unfortunately, we've seen higher than expected inflation in some of our seafood inputs separately from tariffs. And so, the upside to Jimmy's negotiations have largely been offset. We're thinking of it in terms of, thanks to the negotiations, we're able to continue to maintain our expectation of give or take 30% COGS for the full year. And so we don't expect that to be accretive to, a margin opportunity. The biggest, would be as we look to next year, as Jimmy mentioned in his prepared remarks, the dish robots, we expect an incremental 50 basis points in terms of leverage, in terms of labor improvement. And next year we have previously we've been saying a 50-50 split between new and existing markets. That's actually shifted even more in our favor to 55-45. These, the new markets have no impact to cannibalization, and so that will be a tailwind for fiscal 27. And all things equal, new markets outperform. And so between those things, we feel very confident in our ability to get back to that 20% without tariff relief.
In the near future.
In the near future.
Okay, great. Perfect. And then my follow-up question, I'll jump back in queue. And I think, Jimmy, when you were kind of rolling through it, you talked about some future IP partnerships. Can we just review those again so that we pick up the detail behind the upcoming partnerships? And as we're starting to think about it, I think at the end of April, this window of IP versus no IP in the prior year. And so as we're looking forward into Q3 here, can you remind us what we're comparing against? I just want to, and just give us a qualitative sense of the strength of the partnerships that you see coming up in the future versus what Kura ran last year. Thanks.
Got it. Hey Todd, this is Ben. So the ones that we have lined up after Jujutsu Kaisen or Tamagotchi, which is coinciding with its 30th anniversary, and then we have a partnership with a video game called Honkai Star Rail. In terms of your question, yes, at the end of April, we'll be ending the lapping of the lack of IPs. Starting from the last week of April through May, we had Peanuts, and then actually through June, we had Peanuts as well. Those months were pretty strong, and then we had Hololive, which was a strong performer as well. So that sort of goes back to Jimmy's earlier comment about Q2 being the easiest point of comparison. Please do not model 8% comps on a go-forward basis.
Okay, I'll change the model now. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
The next question comes from the line of Jeremy Hamblin with Craig-Hallum. Please proceed.
Thanks, and congrats on the strong results. I want to revisit just the tariff ruling, and in terms of thinking about obviously some volatility on sourcing, potential for freight costs to be passed through as well, given the war. But just in terms of understanding the tariff aspect of your food costs that's embedded here, what's the timing where you would expect, given your kind of forward contracts, to potentially have some benefit, all else being equal? Are we looking at kind of the June time frame, just given the change in the global tariff rate?
So I'm happy to answer this question. 基本的な、プロテインに関しては結構長い間、ロックしているんで、どのタイミングでこう、開発オーダーしたかによりますけれども、新しいタリフのレートになってから、オーダーしたものはその範囲になるんです。ただ、いろんなね、多岐にわたるプロテイン、とかの、牛肉だけとかね、メインだというものじゃなくて、いろんなプロテインになってるんで、どっかのタイミングで一気にコックスが改善されたことっていうのは、我々期待してないです。なんで我々の今期の、しばらくの通期の終わりまでのエクスペクテーションというのは、アバウト 30%、アプロクシメート 30% ということに変わりません。
はい。Hey, Jeremy, this is Ben. So to your point earlier, we do make forward contracts for some of our proteins. Because our basket is so wide, we have, the contracts don't expire on the same date, so to speak. They're all sort of overlapping. And so there wouldn't be a moment where we would expect a really meaningful shift. The other thing that bears mentioning is, with the tariffs, while the IEEPA tariffs were, taken down, they were replaced by other tariffs. And so the relief was really quite minor for us. And this has been offset by, fuel costs and just protein inflation in our basket.
Got it. So with that, I wanted to talk about kind of technology investments that you guys have been making, which have had nice success, the reservation system, robotic dishwashing. In terms of other labor initiatives, because it looks like you guys have made some really nice progress, tremendous progress on the labor front. Can you talk about, with so many tools now available, and you guys have really been an industry leader in making technology investments to help make your business operations more efficient. Can you just talk about some of these tools that are available, whether they're, kind of AI generative tools to help with labor scheduling or otherwise, that provide some opportunity on a go-forward basis, whether it's, in FY26, but more likely in the future, just to potentially really refine the business model?
まず、今回初めて開示するのは、これまで何度かお話ししてきたフジスライダー。これUS のサーティフィケーションをオプテインしましたんで、これ、もちろんね、そんな50ベーシックモデルとか大きなインパクトじゃなくって、新しいレストランの、ハイボリュームなレストランのウィークエンドとかね、そういったところでのシステムワイズ的なインパクトっていうのは少ないですけども、そういった新しいものが取れたということを、共有しておきたいと思います。で、その他にもいろいろ、どちらかというとそのレーバーのエフィシエントというか、どちらかとフードのクオリティをコンシスタントにするためのね、ダッシュのディスペンサーとか、そういったものにも同時に、進歩して、進めているということを、お伝えしておきたいなと思います。で、あとは AI に関しては、基本的には、タトルという、お客さんからのフィードバックを自動的に集計して、エリアマネージャーに、 この各店がどういったオポチュニティがあるかとかをやってくれると。そういったところをもう使ったりとかしてる。そういったところが G&A のフェックになっているというふうに思っていますと。一旦ちょっとここで止めたいと思います。
Hey, Jeremy. So to give you an update on the robotic dishwashers, we expect to finish the installation of our first 10, our tranche of the first 10, by the end of this month. And so we're very happy with the progress. Jimmy's happy to announce that we've actually gotten approval for, American use for technology that we've mentioned in past calls, the sushi slider. And so this will be, limited to new store openings, and we don't expect, a straight headcount reduction in the way that we'd expect with the robotic dishwashers, but this will be a market opportunity, especially for higher volume restaurants on weekends. In terms of the tech things that we're looking at, we're focused a lot on using technology to improve food quality and food consistency. And we're also starting to explore more guest-facing technologies as well that aren't as focused on efficiency as much as they are focused on fun, which we see as a meaningful opportunity in terms of driving traffic as well going forward. In terms of AI, we're using we're using the social media listening tool right now. But I've been assigned AI broadly. I'm the chair of our new AI committee, and this is eating most of my time, and so I hope to have exciting updates for you guys in the future.
後々のオポチュニティ、AI のオポチュニティで言うと、メニューとか IP の開発とか、そういったところも最終的に活かせるんじゃないかなと思ってます。まだスタートしてないけど、そういったことも将来的には考えてます。
Yeah, really, it's kind of shocking how meaningful the strides have been, and in terms of like the ease of making specialized tools for your business. And so we see a lot of really, really exciting things we can do. One obvious application would be to try to hone in on the batting average of our IT collaborations. That would be something that we'd be really excited about.
Great. Thanks for the color and best wishes to the team and Jeff on his next endeavor.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeremy.
The next question comes from the line of Jeff Bernstein with Barclays. Please proceed.
Hi, this is Anisha on for Jeff Bernstein. Before my question, I wanted to thank Jeff for 4 years of collaboration and wish him all the best going forward. As you think about bringing a new CFO, what capabilities or prior experience are most important given Kura's next phase of growth, particularly around unit development, capital allocation, or systems as the business continues to scale?
もちろん、パブリックカンパニーの CFO としてね、今、ミシェルがおっしゃったような、すべての、スキルとかナレッジ持ってる人が理想だと思ってますので、これから我々ノミネーティングコミュニティね、去年設立しましたんで、ノミネーティングコミュニティのメンバーと一緒に、ジフはもう素晴らしいね、エスタブリッシュされた CFO ですけども、彼に負けないようなね、こういうクオリフィケーション高い人って対応できるように、少し時間かけてやっていきたいなと思ってます。
Yeah, hey Nisha, this is Ben. Jeff has been such a great partner to us. We really, we set high expectations for the role, and we're looking for somebody who can satisfy that. And so that's something that our nominating committee is working on right now. All those, qualifications that you've mentioned. Personally, I would, love somebody as charming and charismatic as Mr. Utes. It's been a lot of fun working with him. And so, we're not in a rush to fill this spot for the sake of filling the spot. We know it's a very, very important role, and we're going to give it the appropriate, attention.
Great. And as a follow-up, you guided to around 20% unit growth for fiscal 26. So looking beyond that, what gives you confidence that a similar growth rate is sustainable into fiscal 27? And what key guardrails are most important to preserve as the system scales?
まず27に関して今もね、パイプラインやってますので、もう20% としてのしっかりできるようなパイプになってて自信を持ってます。確約できると思います。で、重要なところっていうのは、やはり開けるだけ開けてですね、ユニットエコノミクスがどんどんダウンとかしていくと。そういったことですとか、オペレーションを乱れると。そういったことないようにするんですけど、27に関しては数に関してもそういったクオリティに関しても全く問題なく遂行できるんで、できるだけね、長く 20% を維持していきたいというのは考えています。ただ、やっぱり同時にね、フレキシブルにもう少しできたと思うんで、しっかりモニターしてね、ニューレストのパフォーマンスですとか、オペレーションの状況を そういったらしっかりモニターして、やるべきときは、しっかり、チェンジすべきときはチェンジする決断を下していきたいなと思ってます。
So as it relates to fiscal 27, we already have our pipeline built, and so we feel very confident about our ability to hit that 20% unit growth for fiscal 27. In terms of the gating factors, the way that we've always thought about it would be if our new units are not meeting our expectations, if they're coming in below, the average, the system average for unit economics, that would cause us to seriously reconsider how quickly we're growing. But as Jimmy mentioned earlier, fiscal 25 is one of the strongest years we've opened in recent memory, and fiscal 26 is shaping up very strong as well. And so we're really pleased with that, and we'd like to sustain that 20% unit growth for as long as possible. At the same time, we don't want that 20% to become the tail that wags the dog. And so if we're always looking at it critically. It's not a blind chase of a number, and should circumstances change, we'd like to maintain our flexibility. But for where we have visibility as it stands today, we feel good about that 20%.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question comes from the line of Sharon Zackfia with William Blair. Please proceed.
Hi. Thanks for taking the question. I guess I have two. The first is kind of going back to one of the initial questions on, I guess, Jimmy, you said, slightly positive comps for the year, and you can kind of get there with no comps for the rest of the year. And I get that there's geopolitical uncertainty and all of that, but are you seeing anything in the business that would suggest that you can't maintain positive comps for the rest of the year?
私は、あくまでちょっとこれから先、ポジティブなコンポを維持できないっていうことはちょっと言ってないんです。やっぱりいろんなアンサートンでやるんで、そのあたりに関してちょっと、少し大きなカバンを持たせておきたいと考えているです。っていうのも、やっぱり去年、一昨年かな。ここでアップグレードした、その後ダウングレードしたっていう曲があるんで、今回この、アップグレードしたのもちょっとコンサバティブになったっていうのが正直あるんで、それは踏まえてもらったら、サロンもそのストーリーしてると思うんで、それを踏まえていただけたらと思います。
So Sharon, I'm sure you recall the traumatic and unfortunate experience a couple of years ago where we raised guidance, and then in a number of weeks we had to lower guidance but below the initial guidance, and that's sort of informed a level of conservatism in the way that we provide guidance ever since. But having had that lesson and knowing today that, the president has like a deadline and we don't know what's going to happen, it just seems irresponsible to get ahead of our skis. And so the guidance reflects, what we're seeing to date, and what we're confident that we can hit.
あともう一つ言うんであれば、我々今クォーター2デートの結果、ハッピーです。
And we're pleased with how the quarter is going so far.
今現在の環境を考えたら。
Just looking at how the environment is, we're pleased with how things are proceeding.
Okay. Second question is, it may have been causal, it may have been coincidental, but it certainly felt like the company got a lot more discipline around G&A when Jeff joined the company. And I guess I'm curious, do you think now that's part of the muscle memory of the company and ingrained that, you will seek G&A leverage on an ongoing basis even as Jeff departs? And again, sorry to see you go, Jeff.
Thanks, Sharon. I mean, I'll let Jimmy and Ben address, going forward, but, we made a lot of strides. I'm proud of the team. I was fortunate to be in the driver's seat for the G&A reduction and kind of lead the charge, but, the team really stepped up and over 400 basis points in just over 3 years is quite a bit. When you kind of multiply that by the trading multiples and all that is quite a bit to our valuation that I'm quite proud of. Going forward, as Jimmy said earlier, as they search for a new CFO, they're not going to rush it, and it humbles me and makes me feel proud that the company thinks of me the way that they do. And I wish them the best, and I'll be on the sideline continuing to watch what they do. And I hope that the new CFO continues to lead this to a single-digit G&A at some point, as I have promised in the past.
私も新しい CFO ということで、もちろんジェフが抜けたらすごい大きいんですけども、新しい CFO とともに、彼がね、やり方を示してくれましたから、我々、そこから学んでしっかり、引き続き G&A レバレッジをこれからも、発揮して、彼がやったみたいに シングルデジットのね、ところで持っていってプロフィタビリティ改善していきたいなと思ってます。
Yeah, Jeff has carved such a clear and sustainable path forward for us that we absolutely expect to continue to leverage G&A, and that's going to be one of the primary mandates for whoever becomes the next CFO. As much as I would love to, double my salary, we know that there are more prudent ways to spend our money. It's one of the things that our investors have come to expect. It's part of our guidance, and so it's part of our report card at this point. And so Jeff leaving doesn't change that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
The
next question comes from the line of Mark Smith with Lake Street Capital Markets. Please proceed.
Hi, guys. I wanted to dig into the comp just a little bit, and sorry if I missed any update on this, but can you guys speak at all to March and maybe as we saw gas prices rise, any changes in consumer behavior and, potentially if in the past, if gas prices have had a significant impact on your consumer, whether it be, the plates that they eat or traffic trends?
まず、先ほど言ったみたいに、マーチというか、クォーターデートの今の進捗に関して我々はまず、ハッピーだということと、あともう一つは、これ我々ねっていうところじゃなくて、やっぱり今現在ね、カリフォルニアだったら6ドル、ガロン超えてますんで、今の環境下で全く影響を受けないということは、やっぱり一般的にはないだろうというふうな、それは、一般的なコメントとして挙げさせてもらいたいと思います。でも我々は今現在ここまでのところは、自分たちのパフォーマンスはハッピーだということです。
So as Jimmy mentioned earlier, we're happy with how the quarter to date is going. As it relates to, gas prices, Jimmy and I, we're in California. Gas prices are $6. Whether we're talking about Kura or any other company, it would be foolish to think that this would not have an impact on the consumer. That being said, we are pleased with performance, and yeah, that's where we are.
Okay. Last question for me is just around cadence of openings as we look at the back half of the year, the remaining restaurants to open. Will these be, more heavily? I know you've got 4 open, but, should we look for the rest of those kind of in Q4 or, can you squeeze more in here in Q3 or even early in Q4?
近くオープンできるレストランがいくつか、少なくあるんですけども、基本的には、Q4 に差し掛かると思ってもらって結構だと思います。
There are a number of stores that we're hoping to open up in Q3, but it's for modeling purposes, we think it's safe to assume back half weighting relative Q3 relative to Q4.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Mark.
The next question comes from the line of Jim Sanderson with North Coast Research. Please proceed.
Hey, thanks for the question, and Jeff, best of luck in your new opportunity. I wanted to go back to seafood inflation and more broadly food costs. Is there any concern that we're going to start seeing or hearing about fuel surcharges or incremental invoice impacts from aviation fuel increases or diesel fuel in the next couple of quarters?
Hey, Jim, it's Jeff. I've been really deep into this. As I finish up here, we're really watching this. That is a possibility. Fuel surcharges are something that the delivery companies like to impose. I did ask our supply chain team. We haven't seen a lot of it lately, just a handful, but that is a possibility. It does happen, obviously, when fuel goes up. We push back on those. And like I see, I've had these before at other companies, and I don't just accept them. I push back and say, look, that's the cost of doing business. If you want to adjust your prices, go ahead, but they typically don't. And they will usually allow you to cross out those line items on the invoice. And I've been pretty successful with that in the past. That being said, as Jimmy mentioned earlier, there's just a lot of puts and takes in food costs right now with what's going on in the world. And that's why we've kept our guidance at the 30%-ish number for the year. And we think with all the negotiations, minus anything that's going on with fuel and delivery costs and all that, we remain pretty confident in that 30% number as to where we sit right now for the year.
ジェルの今のコメントに重ねて、我々はやっぱり今現在のね、30% 維持しているってことはもうすごく、他のね、個人のレストラン、寿司レストランとかにすごい有利なものだと思ってますと。 で、Q2 以降、Q2 でトラフィックポジティブになりましたけど、これ我々も言及している通り、4.5% の今、エセキュティブプライスっていうのは他の寿司レストランなんかだったらとんでもなく低いと思ってます。アベレージチェックにしたらもう1ドル増えてるだけです。他のアメリカの個人レストランで1ドルだけのね、アベレージチェックのインクリースで済ませてるレストランないと思いますので、ますます今現在、他のプロテインもめちゃくちゃ上がってる、あとそういったフレートコストとかも乗っかってる現状を考えたときに、我々は次今プライシング予定してませんと、6月。ますますバリューのプロポジションっていうのは強まってくると確信しています。なんで、エコノミックがどうであれ我々はすごく、進捗としてはすごく、いい進捗が出てると思ってます。バリューの部分で。
はい。Hey, Jim. So just to add on to Jeff's comment, we're very, very proud that we've been able to keep our cost of goods sold at 30%, all things considering. When you look at our Q2 comps, half of that being driven by traffic, we see this as vindication of our strategies. The 4.5% effective pricing that we're running as of November translates to roughly $1 per person, and we know that our direct competitors, the individually owned sushi restaurants, there's just no way that they're able to, keep the doors open by charging just $1 extra per person. And that value, delta has become clearer and clearer to our guests. And so this dynamic isn't fun, but it works in our favor. And as incremental pressures arise, again, it won't be fun, but it will work in our favor.
あと現在、我々、今現在でも6月さらに追加で取る必要ない状態にいることをすごくハッピーだと思います。
And we're really happy that we, as we see the year now, we feel that we've no need to take further price this year.
Okay, and that assumes about 4.5% for the fiscal year for price.
それ以外で言うと 4% 以下になると思います。
It'll be a little bit below 4% on a full year basis.
Last question. Yep. Last question for me. I think last year you reported about a 500 basis point negative impact because of wildfires and other issues. If we peel that off the 8.5, the comp you reported, is that a good run rate for where you think you are trending March, April to date?
それは去年400、500受けたのは確かなんですけど、今年も実は受けてるんですよ、大きな。なんでオフセットして200、300ベーシスポイントぐらいのインパクトの差はあったと思います。ウェザーで恵まれた部分もあると思います。オフセットされて。
Jim, unfortunately, we had weather as well this year. And so the comps are so good that it doesn't seem obvious, but we did have pretty significant winter weather that impacted our sales. And so the 400 to 500 basis point, well, that's not a 400 to 500 basis point tailwind this year. It's more like a 200 basis point tailwind.
Okay. So, again, maybe I can ask it one last. How should we think about the performance in the back half relative to the guidance? Low single digits, just kind of bridging that gap.
これは先ほどからずっとお話してます通り、クォーターでのガイダンス言わないということですとか、あとこの前アップグレードした後にまた下げたりとかあるんで、あと今現在ね、X3 で何が起こっているかの使った時なんで、数値でざっくりと、モデストリーポジティブっていうところだけをちょっとお知らせしたいなというふうに思っています。
We don't like to make it a practice of giving quarterly guidance, and just given all the moving parts, we feel it's especially not a good time to try to give quarterly guidance. But we did, we did provide a guidance update at the beginning of this call, and all that incorporates everything that we've seen to date.
あと我々 Q3 のコロナデューレートがハッピーだということを言いました。
And to reiterate, we're happy with how Q3's performed so far.
Understood. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.
The next question comes from the line of George Kelly with Roth Capital Partners. Please proceed.
Hey, everyone. Thanks. First, Ben, in response to one of the earlier questions, you mentioned there being opportunity for tech enhancements around food quality and consistency. I don't know how much you're going to want to say on today's call, but can you provide a little more detail just on where you think there could be opportunity there?
I'm happy to answer this question, George. まず2つありまして、ジャプニーズセンサーっていう、だしの、分量と、あと温度を毎回必ず均一に、もう本当誰もガッツも間違いなく、できるものを、そういったことの US のサーティフィケーション、今、取ろうとしているということと、
あと、シェアするやつ。これもちょっと人によって炙りすぎたり、炙り方がするんですけど、自動的にコンペアで、炙り方を均一に。しかも少しレーバーのセーリングになるかもしれない。この二つを取り組もうと、動いてます。ちょっと時間かかると思いますけど。
So the two that are on the docket right now, one is managing our broth. And so we make all of our broth, all of our stock from scratch every morning. During my training period, I was responsible for doing this, so this is near and dear to my heart. But you make the broth in the morning, and if you're keeping it warm, it evaporates, and so it gets progressively more concentrated and bitter. And so we have this technology that we use in Japan that allows, it to stay fresh all day long, and so we're really excited to bring that over and make sure that we have very consistent quality on what we see as one of the most important things about our restaurants being our broth. The other that we're working on is, so we have a sear station for, like the seared mayo salmon, for instance. We do that by hand right now, but we're working on automating that. And so that'll give us much greater consistency. Probably a little bit in labor savings, but that's mostly a food quality effort.
Okay, helpful. Thank you. And then two other quick ones. The litigation expense, what are your expectations for that in the coming quarters? Should it stay kind of consistent with what you just did? I think it was 1.2 in the quarter. And then second question on labor. I may have missed it, but did you provide more specific, like an updated guide for the year on labor? And that's all I had. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. I'll address the litigation one, George, and then Jimmy can jump into the labor side. On the litigation, unfortunately, this is just a negative byproduct of doing business in California. And, the restaurant companies that you follow or anybody else follows, you get sued in California for just wage and hour stuff, regardless of how buttoned up your system is. So what are my expectations? Well, my expectations are to never be sued because I think we're very buttoned up. But it just happens in California, and it's an unfortunate thing. So I would like to tell you that they're done, but we just don't know. But I will assure you that our employment, the practices that we employ in terms of employment and wage and hour law are some of the best that I've ever seen. But you just can't get away from it in California. So that's where I'd leave it. I'm hopeful that we won't see any more, but you just never know.
あと、レーバーコストに関してのところですけども、400ベーシスポイントというのはやっぱり去年の、フェーバラブルな、出来事に助けられた部分があるんで、Q3 以降も400ベーシスポイントっていうのは期待できないんですけど、少なくとも Q3 以降ね、150ベーシスポイントとかね、そういったレベルに関しては、イヤーオーバーイヤーで改善できるんじゃないかなと少なくとも思ってます。はい。
Hey, George. As it relates to labor, we're not expecting 400 basis points in leverage in the coming quarters. There are a lot of idiosyncrasies to Q2 that led to that 400 basis point. But we do think that for Q3 and Q4, we can improve labor year over year by about 150 basis points. And so we're looking forward to giving you guys updates on that.
Okay. Thanks. And Jeff, it's been a pleasure. All the best to you.
Thank you, George. Appreciate it.
The next question comes from the line of Matt Curtis with D.A. Davidson. Please proceed.
Hi, thanks. I just had another one on the reservation system. Jimmy, in your comments, I think you mentioned that it was driving a much higher visitation rate. So just wondering if you've seen any sales lift from increased usage of the reservation system. I think you guys previously said you've not been explicitly baking in any sales upside from this. And just wanted to see if this is still the case or not.
Yeah, our internal estimate is that the reservation system has contributed about 1%. And so we're very pleased, especially given the headcount reduction it's already delivered.
Okay, great. And one last one for me. I think you had a gap in your IP collaborations for the first 2 weeks of March due to some inspection issues, I believe it was. Could you maybe just provide a little more detail around this and whether you think it's more of a one-off or something that could potentially reoccur?
So this has actually never happened before in our history of being in the United States, and so we really had no reason to expect it. We don't expect it to happen again. We're not sure why it happened this time, but we think it's one-off.
あと、まず今回の件なんですけど、インパクトは、非常に限定的だと思ってます。っていうのも、どの IT コラボレーションでも、基本的に開始した最初の2週間、ものすごく売上の効果があって、逆にじゃあ最後の2週間のインパクトっていうのはほぼ、無視できるレベルになってくるんで、今回の最初の2週間がずれても、最後の、ね、最後の効果のところが先に来たわけで、オーバーオールのこの45日間の売上全体っていうのは変わってないと思いますし、スタンドとかお話ししてますけど、Q3、我々今、ところクォーターズデーで今、ハッピーですから、特に懸念になってないです。はい。
So, while we weren't happy that this happened, we don't really see it as a meaningful headwind, just given that the overwhelming upside and response opportunity for the IP collaborations tends to be the first 2 weeks. And so it's not like we lost those first 2 weeks, we just pushed them back by 2 weeks. And so if we lost anything, it would have been the last 2 weeks of the campaign, which, pale in comparison to the first 2 weeks. And so it's unfortunate, but it's not as much of a headwind as it, might sound like. And to reiterate, we're happy with Q3.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks very much, and best of luck, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
The next question comes from the line of John Tower with Citi. Please proceed.
Great. Thanks for taking the question. Just curious, I noticed that you guys during the quarter did a sushi lunch combo. I think it was $13.99, and it wasn't something that I've seen before, but I think it's something you've done in the past, just not in recent memory. So I'm curious, one, how consumers responded to it. Two, did it end up impacting your mix at all or traffic during that lunch period? And is this also a sign of something that you feel comfortable with using again in the future?
現在、この辺に関しては特にシーズナリティを意識してやってます。特にうどんとかラーメンとハンドロールとかのコンベなんで、この冬のシーズンに毎回やるということで、去年も同じことやってて、一定の効果あると思うんで、これからも同じシーズンでやっていくと思います。ただ夏場は違うキャンペーンやると思います。
So this is something that we've done every winter. We usually do some sort of combo with our soups and our noodle dishes. We think they're really good, and we want to give people opportunities or reasons to try them. And so that's something that we've done every year. It has an impact, but not it's not really a big needle mover. We'll probably do something similar in the summer as well, not for soups, but we don't expect it to be a big needle mover.
あともう一つ、これも最近のコンファレンスで言ってるんですけど、我々 IT コラボレーションがね、成功しても、やっぱり重要さを再認識している一方、やっぱりフードの、プロモーションもやっぱりしっかり寿司レストランとしてね、やっていくって考えてるんで、クラリザーブをやること以外にも、例えば、3月でしたら和牛を目指しキャンペーンですとか、あと4月の何かね、フードコラボ、キャピデイティッドの小さなキャンペーン考えてるんで、そういったフード関係のプロモーションの回数ですとか、質とかもどんどん改善していく、手を緩めるつもりはないです。
And John, it's great to see how successful the IPs have been working, but we don't want to be entirely reliant on IPs, and so to that end, we've been working on a lot of LTOs, even going above and beyond the Kura Reserve. For instance, in March, we had a campaign called Wagyu of the Seas. It was very high quality toro. And, we've got a pretty good calendar in terms of reasons to come in.
Got it. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I got to get to the stores more frequently to make sure I can understand what's new and what's not. But, I guess, you mentioned earlier, obviously, that this year you've been pretty disciplined on pricing and that the competitive set is likely going to have to pass along a lot more pricing than what you guys are planning to do for the year. One, have you seen that happen, anecdotally based on your own work that you've done? And then two, have you seen any signals that because of the price increases or potential price increases from the competitive set that consumers are pushing back and or like there's risk that these other stores might have to, close their doors because traffic is just not showing up the way that it should?
It's possible. I mean, this is a dynamic that's played out twice before, at least with my time at the company, once during the pandemic and once during the post-pandemic supply chain issues. It's always been a traffic boon to us. The reason that we are interpreting, the reason that for this interpretation would really be, we took, 3.5% price on November, but our traffic accelerated. And so we don't think there'd be a reason for that if it weren't clear that the value is amazing. And anecdotally, yes, we are seeing it. You'll be able to confirm the same thing just by looking at Yelp menus and going back historically and seeing their current menus, and I think you might be surprised.
Got it. And are you guys highlighting that in any of these social or digital marketing that, like, how can you communicate that to guests?
That's a tricky message. Everybody's raising price but us. It's not a good slogan.
ジョーのおっしゃってることすごく、重要で、多分この何回か前のアーニングスコーリングだと思うんですけど、結局そういったこと言わずに、他のレストランと我々の価格をコンペアしてもらうために、クラには来てないけれども、他の近場のレストランをサーチした人でターゲットするマーケティングを、多分去年の年末ぐらいから始めてるんで、まあちょっとやっぱりクオンティファイするのは難しいけども、やっぱそういったのも効果出てきてるかもしれないなというふうに思ってます。やっぱある特定のところでのコンプセールスがすごいね、調子良かったりするんで、そういうのはコンピューターが値段高いところでの、そういったターゲットマーケティングっていうのはうまくできるかもしれないなと思って。
One thing that we do is target marketing, especially if we're able to see that the competitive set in that local market is taking price pretty aggressively. We can spend incremental advertising dollars there just to get eyeballs, and that's always that's worked pretty well. Another tool, we just talked about the Wagyu of the Seas, but that makes it easier for guests to make a direct comparison with higher end sushi as well. And if they're not impressed by the salmon, getting the bluefin toro for $4 is impressive. And so it serves dual purposes, these LTOs.
Got it. Thanks for taking the questions.
Thanks, Joe.